Hello learners, I hope you're keeping well, finding the sessions interesting and useful. I'm Ajit K. Mishra and I'm here again with another session on emotional well-being. This time I'm going to talk about emotional awareness. How do we know we are emotionally aware? Emotional awareness has another name. I'll also be talking about it. So as we move on, we'll be gradually discovering a few very interesting and important things related to emotional awareness. So let's start with what emotional awareness is all about. Emotional awareness is all about recognizing and describing emotions in oneself and others. So it's all about recognizing. So the recognition has to come. I must recognize what kind of emotions I'm experiencing or what kind of emotion I'm experiencing at a particular time. If I can recognize, if I can tell I'm experiencing anger or fear, sadness, then I'm emotionally aware. If I can also do the same thing when it comes to others, if I can identify the emotion that's being experienced by my friend sitting beside me or standing next to me, I'm emotionally aware. So, emotional awareness is all about recognizing and describing emotions in oneself and others. Secondly, it is closely related to emotional literacy. So, emotional awareness is otherwise called emotional literacy. Am I emotionally literate? Will be determined by whether I'm emotionally aware or not, whether I can recognize and describe my own emotions and the emotions of others around me. If I can do that, then I can say I'm emotionally literate. It also means being able to level our feelings. For example, I'm not feeling well, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling lonely. So these are the levelings that we generally use to express how we feel. So if we can level our feelings with specific feeling words, this is something that we all can do on a daily basis. We can, at any point in time, in our everyday life, we can sit down with a piece of paper and then suddenly begin to describe how we have been feeling since one point in time, either since the morning or since the afternoon, since the evening, how we have been feeling. So if I can level my feelings using feeling words, then I can say I'm emotionally aware or I'm emotion literate. So at its highest level, emotional awareness means being able to predict feelings in advance. So that's the most important aspect of emotional awareness. That means it gives us this predictive power. So we can, on one hand, recognize and describe the feelings that are happening currently, that are being experienced by us at a given point in time. So we know them. It's easier to recognize and describe. But at the same time, if we know how we can predict our emotions in advance, that means we are emotionally very, very literate and we are emotionally aware. So if I can predict, if this happens, it can lead to sadness, it can lead to fear, it can lead to anger in me. If I can predict how I'm going to behave in the next moment, irrespective of the stimulus that actually ignites that particular feeling. If I'm in a position to predict my own emotional feelings in future, that means I'm greatly aware emotionally and I have great emotional literacy. So that's how emotional awareness is a very important concept. Why is emotional awareness important? It is important because it helps us understand our own emotions, come to terms with our emotions and the emotions of others. It also helps us understand how we can behave in a certain situation. For example, if I come to know that whenever I come across such a situation, such an object, such a person, I suddenly behave in a certain emotional manner. If I can predict that, then I can think of modifying my response to an emotional stimulus in the future. So that will help me regulate my emotions. So that kind of emotional literacy or emotional awareness is very, very essential. There are a few ways in which we can improve our emotional awareness. So let's take a look at these ways through which we can improve our emotional awareness one by one. The first way is to know the feeling. This is a very, very important thing because this is an entry point. Most often we are not aware of our emotions, and that's quite natural. I've already told you that there are occasions when emotions can be known, can be conscious, can be unconscious. They can be visible, they can be invisible. So there is every possibility that we miss several of our emotions or our feelings. It's very important that we know the feeling. That is the entry point. For example, I'm sitting at a lounge and then I'm unconsciously, unknowingly, tapping my fingers. So when I'm doing that, maybe in the beginning I'm not aware of it. I do not know that I'm experiencing a certain kind of emotion. So when I do that, it may mean that I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling impatient. So when that happens, and then you suddenly come to know about it, yes, I'm experiencing a certain kind of emotion. I'm feeling anxious. So we are leveling that particular emotion. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling impatient, stressed. The moment you know you're feeling, then you move to the next level. The next level is acknowledging that feeling. We need to acknowledge that particular feeling. What is it? Is it real? Is it actually happening? Or it was just, a figment? Then you suddenly acknowledge, okay, it is true, it is real. I'm actually, experiencing anxiety. I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling impatient. Then you begin to acknowledge that feeling. That will give you greater insight into your own emotion. Then the third level, you go a level up and enter the third level. And then what do? You identify the feeling. What kind of feeling is it? What kind of emotion am I experiencing? Is it really anxiety or is it anything else? It may not be anxiety, it may not be stress, it may not be impatience, it may be something else which I misunderstood as anxiety. So it's very important that I identify that particular feeling. When I identify that feeling, I'll definitely try to give it a name. Oh, this is the name, this is anxiety. And this is anxiety. And what kind of anxiety is it? Is it a very strong kind of anxiety or a weak form of anxiety? Is it temporary or is it happening to me quite frequently and over a certain period of time? So these are some of the things that I need to identify. Once we have done that, we go to the next level. And in the next level, we accept that feeling. We accept, yes, this is anxiety. This is the level where most people do not accept. They try to escape. They say, no, this is not anxiety. I cannot feel anxious. Even if you're asked by one of your friends sitting by, are you nervous? Are you anxious? Are you stressed? Are you impatient? You'll say, just to save your face, you'll say the social face. You'll say, no, nothing like that. I'm perfectly fine. I'm very comfortable. But that's not the case. Well within, you know that you are experiencing something, a disturbing emotion. So you have to accept that feeling. Once we accept the feeling, then we can think of overcoming that. As long as we escape from a disturbing feeling, we cannot think of overcoming it. We cannot do anything about it because we escape. So, acceptance is a very important stage. When we are through with that stage, we come to the reflection stage or reflection level, or level up, and then we begin to reflect on that feeling. We try to understand what it is, why is it so, and what things actually triggered that particular thing. What can I do in order to stop experiencing such emotions? These are the things that we generally do on the reflection level. Because we begin to reflect, we try to go to the root of that particular outcome, that particular emotion. Because we say, these are the things, on such occasions, I generally feel anxiety or I generally become anxious. Now, what can I do about such occasions? That will be your concern, not this particular emotion. So, at the reflection level, we'll definitely think about the ways through which we can overcome a certain problematic emotion. And then we come to the final level. In the final level, we will be in a position to forecast feelings. And that's exactly what we mean by proper emotional literacy, which helps us predict our emotional behavior or emotional experiences in future. So, we can forecast our feelings and the feelings of others as well. Now, this guy is going to be very, very angry. For example, if I can tell on the basis of certain things that if I go to my boss now and tell my boss about it, the boss will be very angry. So, we begin to forecast our emotions and the emotions of others as well. So, these are some of the ways through which we can actually improve our emotional awareness. There is another model that can be used to, both test the levels of our emotional awareness, and that can also be used to inform us, train or coach ourselves on how to improve our emotional awareness. This model is very popularly called the LEAS model, Levels of Emotional Awareness Scale, developed by Lane and Schwartz. So, this model has 5 distinct stages through which our emotional awareness can actually be tested. So, let's take a look at each of these stages. The first level is emotional experience level. At this level, our emotional experiences consist of bodily experiences, somatic in nature. Generally, bodily experiences, we begin to experience the same kind of emotions and we can feel those emotions physically. So, that's the level of our emotional awareness. If I can feel those emotions physically, yes, I have access to that particular level. The second one, that is action tendencies. At this level, our emotional experiences will consist of actions or action tendencies. For example, we are experiencing a certain kind of emotion. It can be fear. So, if it is fear, then what are we going to do about it? Are we going to avoid it, or are we going to approach it and overcome it? So, this stage will determine our action tendencies. What kind of action are we going to adopt vis-a-vis or in relation to a particular emotion? And our actions can also be self-injurious, or our behaviors can be harmful at this stage as well. If we experience a negative emotion, we can think of behaving in a very negative manner. In the third level, which is the discrete emotion level, we generally experience emotion as a discrete and specific emotional feeling state. That means, how are you feeling? That's the question. And if you respond by saying, I'm feeling angry, so it's a very clear, discrete and specific emotional state. So at this stage, emotions can be specific. They are not general emotions. They are very, very specific. So I'm feeling very angry, I'm feeling very sad, I'm feeling very scared or afraid are some of those responses that generally come to us from this level. The fourth level, that's the blends of emotions. It's a very complex level because we come across complex blending of emotions. So this level is characterized by the capacity to have feelings that are opposed to are clearly, or are clearly different from each other. They generally either opposed or are different from each other. For example, I'm feeling very sad. I have failed in an exam. I had worked very hard for that examination, but I finally failed. Of course, I'll feel very, very sad about it. But does that sadness mean that it is the end of my life, my pursuits, my efforts? If that's not the case, I'll definitely feel a little hopeful that fine, this time I worked, although I worked very hard, it didn't happen to me, but I'm still very hopeful that in the future it will certainly happen. So this is the level where we develop the capacity to have different types of feelings or opposite feelings simultaneously. So feeling sad yet hopeful is an example of this, where we generally come across at this particular level, blends of emotions. So if a person go on developing these skills through these levels, we are certainly in for greater emotional awareness. Let's now take a look at the last level, that is the fifth level, which is the most complex of all these levels. At this level, we have the capacity to appreciate complexity in the experiences of self and other simultaneously. So this time, the self is in contact with the other, and both the sides are experiencing complex emotions. So at this level, we are also able to appreciate the multi-dimensionality and nuance of the other's feelings by imagining ourselves in their situation. So empathy level. And we are also unbiased by our own emotional state. So that is pure empathy, both affective and cognitive. This level will ensure that we have developed greater empathy, both affective and cognitive forms, and we are in a position to understand the other's feelings by imagining ourselves in their position. So therefore, this is the highest level of emotional awareness, where we can understand our emotions very, very well, and we can also understand the emotions of others as well or even better. So that way our emotional awareness will go up in a very considerable manner. I'm sure you have taken note of all these things, and you're going to explore these things yet further. When I meet you the next time with a new session, I'll be talking about another type of well-being, that is social well-being. So until then, it is bye-bye.